Hey guys, welcome back to Iron Game Chalk Talk. I'm your host, Ron McKeefery, and I'm fired up to bring you Robert Dos Remedios today on the show. Dos is a good buddy of mine. He's the head strength coach at the College of the Canyons, a junior college out in California. And he's often the example that I give, my staff, people that have worked with me, as a guy that has made the big time where he's at. I often recommend to young strength coaches the book by Frosty Westerling, Make the Big Time Where You're At. And it's, the book is juvenile in nature. It's not, earth shattering, but the message is what's important. And Dos is a guy that, he started his, he played college football. He started, went back to the junior college that he had played at, had a passion for being at that level because he had come through that level. And, worked at a junior college, started coaching at a high school, and about 9 years into it gets into his current situation, which is not anywhere near what he walked into. He's made it a great situation for himself now. But he made the big time where he was at, and he made his dream job, and where he's turned down several jobs because he's got such a good situation. So we're going to get into a little bit of that, kind of his journey. What were some of the things that he did? A lot of you guys out there that are watching this, you're at a small school, and you're trying to climb, you're trying to make it a great situation, or you're trying to climb the ranks, and these are some great tips to be able to navigate some of that stuff. So Dos is, and the other thing about Dos is there's not a guy that's more creative or imaginative in his programming, and we talk about that a little bit as well. Can't get any further without recognizing our sponsor of the show, Play Performance Sports Flooring. Play does a great job with flooring. They have field turf, they have weight room flooring. They pretty much anything that you're trying to address from a flooring, sports performance flooring need, they can do that for you. So if you've not gone and liked their Facebook page, go do that. Check out some of the facilities that they've done. Honestly, I like getting on just looking at what some of these other facilities are doing. But this is a high school that they just got done doing, and they're doing some really neat things. And what's fantastic about Play is, they're not going to hard sell you. They're not going to do all those sorts of things. They're just going to come in, see your situation, and then turn around and try to make some recommendations and go from there. And, that's all you can ask for from a company like that. So reach out to Play, like their Facebook page, and sit back and enjoy this episode. We'll see you on the other side. All right, guys, welcome back to Iron Game Chalk Talk. I got a good buddy with us today, Robert Dos Remedios, the head strength coach at the College of the Canyons, and a good friend. One of the most creative guys that I know, and it's constantly been an inspiration for me. So, man, I appreciate you coming on the show, brother.
Oh, man. Thanks, Ron. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Dos, go into a little bit your journey into strength and conditioning. I know you were a player, you got into coaching, sport coaching, then kind of went into strength and conditioning, and then just kind of talk about that evolution.
Yeah, it's been a ride. We were talking before we started this. We've all been kind of through our trials and tribulations. I've actually played. I teach and coach at a JC now, junior college here, 2-year college in California, College of the Canyons, and I actually went and played at one when I came out of high school, and then I transferred to Berkeley, where I played. So that's kind of where I got my taste, of like strength and conditioning. Because when I was in junior college, we were just training with the bodybuilders and the professional wrestlers and the dungeon gyms. We didn't have any weight room really at the school. Our defensive line coach was our strength coach and that kind of shit. So, at that point, I knew I kind of wanted to do that. I didn't know whether I wanted to be a position coach and stay on and stuff like that. So I decided in my last year that I wasn't going to stay in GA or anything and coach at that level. I wanted to go back to the junior college level and teach and coach. So I went back home and started coaching. Did all the strength stuff because they had nothing in place.
Right.
Started picking up some teams on the side. Basketball coach, baseball coach, that kind of thing, volleyball. I was going to grad school, got that done, and was just kind of jonesing, waiting to try to get a full-time teaching job, and that never happened. So I did that for like 5 years, and then I got my teaching credential, started coaching and teaching. I became a high school head football coach, did that for 4 years. I've done adapted PE, I've taught middle school PE, and then I got on at College of the Canyons back in '98, and part-time offensive line coach, and did the weights there. And then we created a job there. It was the first one in the state of California, which was basically a full-time faculty member, professor tenured position that was just specifically strength and conditioning for all the sports. So that's where I've been the last 15, 16 years. And it has a lot of different, aspects to the job. I'm coaching the sports teams and training them, but I'm also teaching regular general ed classes in kinesiology. I'm, dealing with, curriculum, departmental stuff, which is all part of the whole professor deal, but right. It's a trade-off. It's different. I like it because it's not all just grinding in the weight room all day. I get to go home and teach an online class, teach an on-ground class and stuff like that. So, sure. But yeah, the great part, I think, at the end of the day is it's a great position to be in. It's a stable job. It's a tenured position, and it's fun. I have fun with it, and I feel like I'm in a position where I can really, really influence sure. the athletes that I get.
Well, that's why you get into coaching, obviously. And when you're a young coach, this is something that obviously in a microwave kind of instant gratification or uber success. So much you chalk success up by the level which you're at, especially when you're a young coach. Talk a little bit about when you first got in. I mean, this is the first junior college head strength coach position in California. It might have been, across the country, might have maybe top 10 or first one of 10. It couldn't have been a great situation. It probably was maybe 1,000 square foot weight room. Probably salary wasn't anywhere near where it needed to be. You had to teach, you had to coach, you had to be a strength coach and do all these odd and end things to make ends meet. Couldn't have been a great situation walking into, but you've made it a great situation for you. You made it home for you and a stable, and so much of we're always looking. Grass is always greener, and I make my staff always read Frosty Westerling's book called "Make the Big Time Where You're At." And I've always used you as an example with them because that's exactly what you did. You made the big time where you're at, and it's been a place where you've turned down probably 100 jobs since you've been there. And talk a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, you're right. When I got in there, the only reason we had a weight room at all is because we actually started football, and that's why I was brought in to coach in '98. And with it came money. So with the money, our coach started kind of funneling off money, and when we kind of earmarked it, like, hey, it's a safety issue if we don't have a weight room to train and get our guys physically prepared. So it was, a traditional wrestling mat room with the set fixed barbells and some Nautilus machines. So we put in some squat racks and some platforms and bought some bumpers and stuff like that. But over the years, we've built something that we're very proud of there. But it wasn't overnight. I didn't walk into I'm still not going to Sorinex or something and saying, hey, dropping some plans up. Right. There's no world I could ever do anything like that. But going back to what you said, I think there is this instant gratification thing. And now people will go, oh man, how do I get a job like yours? Or
right.
How do you write a book for men's health? It's like, that was like 15, 18 years into my journey,
Right.
But as far as where I've been now, we've established something, and, you could call it like notoriety or whatever, but I've had the great fortune to be associated with some people. And I think the whole men's health thing is really the only thing that kind of like people are like, oh, what's going on down there in the dungeon, And I think it opened doors for a lot of college trained coaches in terms of people want to kind of know, hey, what are they doing here at Auburn? What are they doing here at Tennessee? Like, is there something that we can transfer from what they're doing there? And that's kind of what men's health did for me back in back when I first started, probably 2002 or 3. Was there was nothing like that. And I think Mark Verstegen, like, one of the things you had emailed me was, kind of like what are some of the books that people refer back to. And I think Core Performance and when that came out was an eye opener for many, many people to say, hey, this is what they're doing with kind of elite athletes and getting people ready for combines and getting people ready for Olympics and stuff like that. And you started seeing, hey, there's so many things that they're doing that I should probably be doing with my clients, or some variation of that,
Sure.
So now you can't even open a men's fitness or a men's health and not see, actual functional type exercises, stuff that we'd be doing in our weight rooms every day,
Right. Well, you're an outside the box thinker. I mean, you always have been, both in your programming and then in turn, and obviously with networking. And I think that's probably one of the things that was an eye opener to me. And watching you from afar was that you weren't just networking with the typical strength coach. You were networking with equipment manufacturers, publishers, and it opened up these doors, not just from a opportunity or from a fiscal type of opportunity, but really introductions to people. And I know this because we're buddies. You measure things not so much monetarily as turn around and knowledge. Knowledge is your currency. And when you get the chance to meet some of the guys that we get a chance to meet, you're taking so much knowledge back to your athletes, and that's your motivation. I know that.
Absolutely.
What were some of the things early on when nobody was doing that? Like you said, nobody was going to the Men's Health. Nobody was. How did you start to kind of how did you identify that you needed to go outside of typical strength coaches? And then what were some of the strategies you used?
Well, I think, and some of the guys you met, like when, you had Greg Cook up in Tennessee. When I started talking to people like Boyle and Greg Cook, Alan Cosgrove, people that I really respected as far as their knowledge in training, conditioning, rehab, that kind of stuff, you started seeing that there was a whole other world out there. And as well as I do, I'm we're both part of the CSCCA, and I sat in on the exams and kind of looking at some of the programs that are coming in. There's a lot of dinosaurs out there, man. There's a lot of guys that just almost just kind of run around with the blinders on. And when you have GAs and interns that are working for you, it doesn't do them any service at all to kind of pigeonhole them in this whole deal where we're kind of calling it voodoo and stuff when we start talking about muscle activation and prep work and assessment. So I think there's a happy medium. I think you can go too far with that, and then we stop lifting heavy stuff. But I think there definitely is a relationship that needs to build. So for me, it was kind of like I got approached by Men's Health by Adam Campbell, who's an editor over there. Just kind of like on a whim, met him at an NSCA event, and just was asking me questions and said, "Hey, would you ever think about writing some workouts?" Kind of like for the magazine. I'm like, I don't understand. What do you mean? Like, that's kind of weird. I train
Right.
knucklehead all day. And from there, it just kind of grew. But even then, from back then, that's 10, 11 years ago, I've evolved in my training and, kettlebells and ultimate sandbags and suspension training, stuff like that. Everything's constantly evolving. That's kind of like what you said. That's my quest. My quest is I want to become better. So if I go somewhere and, sitting at, after I get done talking at your clinic, I'm sitting there listening to other coaches, even talking to coaches over a beer or something, I get something down, man. I'm putting it in my notepad now, on my iPhone.
Right. Just
to remember, I was up with Jimmy Radcliffe up in Canada a couple months ago, and same thing, man. I was just like digging away at him and, under the table, just, typing away and make sure I didn't forget little nuggets from a guy like that's been at that place.
No doubt.
I mean, think about that Division I level that you were at for many years, 25 years. And I mean, that's insane, right?
Success. I mean, that's what you want to talk about, success in strength and conditioning, staying at a place for 25 years and building it from, from where it was to what it is now. It's phenomenal. Absolutely. That's what we should all strive for.
Yeah. And to me, because I, kind of was coached in that era, with the Rob Rogers and Rick Hughley's, all these types of guys that were coaching back then, I love hanging with those guys at the CCA events. I mean, to me, what I learned from them, even if it's just little stories about athletes that they trained or things like that, I mean, to me, that's always me. That's what I'm always going to be as that college strength coach. But the other side that's grown, I think, more than anything, is more than just the X's and O's in the weight room. Is more like, hey, how can I get a little better at maybe assessing something or get a little more prepared in their mobility or something like that. So I think that's where it's evolved to. But like I said, I think there's a lot of there's still a resistance to that, especially at the college strength coach level.
Sure. When you first got there, and obviously, what's the square footage of your weight room now?
I think we're like 2,800 square feet.
Yeah, it's amazing. People, I guarantee you, people from the outside will say, "Oh man, Dose has got this freaking cathedral," and it's
no, people will come by.
Square feet.
They'll drop, hey, can I come by and visit? Blah blah, and they'll just be like, Is there another one? Like, no, this is it. That's the hallway. We got sleds in the hallway. Like.
But I know for a fact, because we've had this conversation. I mean, pretty much zero budget starting off, pretty much zero budget kind of throughout. What were some of the things? I know the answer to this. One of the things is you run an annual clinic, and that kind of puts the equipment back in. But when you're, what kind of advice would you give the young strength coach that's a head strength coach at an NAI school, 1AA school that's by themselves, has a minimal weight room with zero budget? What are some ways that you've done throughout your career to kind of get equipment in? I mean, I know your relationship with TRX, I know all these types of things.
Yeah.
What are some things that you would recommend for these young coaches to do?
For us, it's always been about trying to network with other people that can help you. So with us, the first thing I did when I got in, I kind of got with the USC strength staff and the UCLA strength staff and San Diego State, everybody that I could potentially get to come up, and we tried to do a clinic, right? So with them coming out of the goodness of their hearts, basically, which is tough nowadays, but you'd be surprised. Basically everybody that's ever come in, we don't pay them a cent. We have some beers afterwards, and that's about it. So I feel really fortunate that coaches will do that.
Sure.
The same way I go and will do stuff at the high schools that need me to come in and speak. We're not really looking for any compensation. So we take 100% of that money, and it goes right into my pot. So and I try to make that last. I really try to make it last, and it's tough. So say if I make $4,000 or $5,000 on an event, that's basically going to be my budget for the next 12 months. I could get away with, so occasionally if I need something, I'll go to football and say, hey, I got to get $500. Can you, transfer $500 over? We got to get some new bumper plates, or we got to get some new med balls, or stuff like that.
Right.
But it's really helped kind of cultivating relationships with some people like Josh Henkin, the Ultimate Sandbags, TRX, because I couldn't afford that kind of stuff,
Right.
So for us, it's about just trying to make some connections. I've got some people that have given us some money in the community,
Sure.
whether it's putting up, getting them to put up a sign in the stadium, put up a sign in the weight room, whatever it is. We've been pretty fortunate with that, but it's you got to kind of hustle a little bit. It's not.
Yeah.
That's something I don't feel that comfortable with, going out and trying to get money.
Right.
But we're pretty fortunate that I think because nowadays in 2013 it's become a thing where we're kind of well known around here as far as what we do and the kids that come out of here. So, our thing is now getting some of the NFL guys to kick back some of that big dinero they get, like Del Mattel over there. We like if we can get that, that's huge for us.
No doubt.
So,
no doubt.
But there's no money. There is no budget for strength and conditioning. So everything I have to either siphon off from the other sports or kind of bill it as towards like the actual PE department, because the weight room is used by the general class. So we'll just try to use a couple $1,000s here and there.
Right. Well, that's one of the things. I'm speaking at the NSCA event next year on 10 things you've learned or things that you've learned since college about strength and conditioning, and I was like, it could really be everything. But at the same time, one of the things is budgeting and designing weight rooms and fundraising and things like that, and you hit it right on the head. I mean, you got to hustle a little bit, you got to, and that's not what we went to school for. So it's hard for us, and it's probably the reason why we like to wear gym shorts and t-shirt every day, because we don't want to go wear a suit and go sell, but it's also, you got to have a plan, and so many times I get these questions, I have zero budget. What, how do I get this, that, and the other? And I'm like, okay, well, what do you want? What's the first thing on your list? And they're like, well, you got to have a plan, and so I was always, I'd always have three things. I'd have a binder that, I had folders, folder full of things that were kind of little things that I could go to the sports for, and so when those coaches came through and said, I got to recruit, can you come in for an extra weekend for this recruit? I'd be like, hey, can you get me a TRX for the, whatever. I'd also have a folder for, those alumni, those former athletes, and these were little things that, and you try to give small wins. Somebody'd come through, well, here's something, what are you trying to do next? Well, I need 12 foam rollers because I got 12 racks, whatever it was. And then I had the big ticket items, So when the head football coach came down and said, "Okay, we got to get this place spruced up for recruiting this year. What can we do?"
Yeah.
I always had something prepared, and I wasn't fishing for something or I had to get them something. I was like, "Hey, coach, let's check this out right here.
Yeah.
Here's Drew Brees on a TRX, all pro quarterback after Super Bowl. I want to put 12 of these, because it's, all the things we talked about."
Right.
And so, I think you hit it right on the head. You got to hustle, but you also got to have a plan,
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about now. You had a part-time assistant. It's you and a part-time assistant. You're teaching, and you got 17 sports. I know not all of them, are training every day, but how do you go about scheduling and managing those sports along with the other responsibilities you have within the athletic department?
It's it seems really, really hectic. Like when my interns come in and they see us running from one thing to another, and then my assistant covers for the first 10 minutes of this, and he's also an assistant soccer coach, so now he's coming in from practice. He runs in, and I got to cover this, and so it's just one of those things where we just learn to live with it. That's all we know.
Right.
We do a pretty good job of kind of giving them, getting the times set in stone for the so they can't really move around because we can't. We literally butt one group up against the next. One group's in there in the auxiliary room, foam rolling and doing their warm ups as one group is finishing, and they literally replace each other. So
right.
It's just one of those things that we've just done it. So I don't really know anything else. I wouldn't know what to do with myself. I think if I had multiple, if I could take a group and if I could have more than one team at a time, that would help me tremendously.
Sure.
Done that a little bit with some crossover stuff, but football and basketball or baseball's in there. That's all that's going to fit in there. If I might be able to get away with a small women's basketball squad or something with maybe the men's basketball, but other than that, we've always just kind of dealt with it. I don't really know if there's a real easy answer to it. We got to be really good at our scheduling because we got to work it around their classes. So we have a couple teams that go early morning. They don't like it, so we try to rotate it, because the attendance issues and stuff. And we really can't. And then we get that chunk where everybody wants to practice, basically at the same time every day. So we get a lot of dead time that we could be getting training done, and we can't. So everything's in there, getting crazy around that 11, 12, 1 o'clock time.
Right.
And right afterwards, maybe about 4 or 5. So
when you have that sport, when you have those two, you have the women's soccer team and the baseball team. They both want to go at 3 o'clock. Who's winning out in that situation, or how are you managing that with the coaches?
We kind of give the in season sports we'll work with them first in terms of they get the first deal. For me, I like to get them before practice, but right now, we just can't do it time-wise with our scheduling. So I get women's soccer, for example, after practice, and man, they're just spent most of the time because our coach is fitness crazy. So they're running the heck out of those kids. But we generally give it to the in-season sports, give them the priority. And we try to work. All our coaches are real good with each other. There's not a lot of animosity or anything. Right. So we do get along with each other pretty well, which makes it easy for me, much easier for me, But in general, I think we just kind of we've tried to keep everything so that every fall, this is kind of what happens, and if a coach wants to switch with another one, they have to make that decision and get and figure it out with each other. I'm not going to get in the middle of that. So.
Right. Well, a lot of it too helps that like you said, you're a tenured position. You're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And you've been there for so long that you've developed this culture, and I think that's a lot of it is that you got to go in with a big picture plan and have, whether or not it's in season sports or we're going to go with revenue sports and then non-revenue, or we're going to always cater to our female sports first. And then, you got to have some sort of plan and then have that backed up by your athletic administration, and that way they're not going to go run to the AD and then you're going to have to fight that battle.
Right.
Down the line, But it's a challenge. You're right. Managing all those pieces, and I think what you alluded to early on was, with one person and a part-time person and a few interns, here and there, you can only do what you can do, and so being able to provide the best coverage that you can, But doing what you're capable of doing, that's, sometimes you got to chalk it up to that,
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's, it took me years to figure that out.
Right.
That I can only do so much. I'm not going to get the teams 3 or 4 days a week most of the time. Most of the time, I'm going to get them 2 times a week. So now, how can I best? My first few years, for some reason, our softball coach was giving me 2 1.5 hour sessions a week with the girls. So I could have said, well, there's nothing we could do, but I figured out how to be pretty darn efficient with
Right.
2 30-minute sessions, and we got stronger.
Right.
So now that I do have 2 hour and a half sessions or 350, that's easy now. Now everything's easy. So I basically started with the worst case scenario. And like, I actually didn't answer it when you asked about like when we first started. When I first got in that first year, they had no idea what to do with me. So they didn't know how to give me a teaching load. They didn't know how to. We didn't have any strength and conditioning classes in the curriculum. So that I was writing curriculum to try to get those passed through the curriculum committee. I was teaching regular weight training classes. We were trying to stick athletes in those classes. It was a mess. It was far from optimal, and it took a couple of years to figure that out. But like you said, it's a process. So we just kept plugging away at it, and then now we've got it running pretty well.
Sure. Being at a junior college and dealing with athletes that are going to be transitional athletes, they may come and go from year to year and things along those lines. How do you deal with the different personalities? When you have an athlete that doesn't show up for a workout, or you have an athlete that doesn't understand the importance of training, or how are you managing some of those personalities?
It's tough for me because I'm pretty high strung in that respect. Like I really demand a lot when they come in, and I always allude to the past athletes that have come through and bought in, that we've created a culture over many years. So I really don't accept anything other than that kind of level. Now that doesn't mean it doesn't happen. So
Sure.
It's really helpful for me when I have sport coaches that have the same expectation levels. It's different now, man. I mean, I'll be honest with you. It's different from the way our administrators view it,
Right.
to the type of kids that are coming in based on what their high school coaches expected of them.
Sure.
So it's a little tougher it's a little more hammering to get the message across. We don't quite get the large scale buy-in right off the bat. You get a lot of, oh man, what's going on here? And hey, we didn't do this before, kind of thing. So
Right.
as long as I'm on the same page with the coach, and the coach is saying, hey, this, the conditioning sessions, that's like a practice. You miss it, you're not playing, you're sitting, you're going to run, whatever it is. I'm cool with that because there has to be some kind of teeth in there. Otherwise, it's silly. And we've gotten rid of sports. We've told some sports that we're not working with you anymore because they couldn't mandate, the situation for them to get there. They had kids missing practices, and they wouldn't have any repercussions. So we're not gonna mess with that. And I'm in a great situation in that, like you said, I'm not going anywhere, so they can choose not to train. That's fine with me too, you know. So, but if they want to train, they're gonna have to, they have to understand what we're getting, what we're doing, and what the expectation level is. And I could drop. It's a class. I'll drop a kid. I'll withdraw a kid that's missed, 2 days, 3 days in a row, and that's fine. Now they're going to be in some trouble with their unit load and all that kind of stuff too. So
now you're saying that all your athletes, their strength training is a class as well?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So it's basically attached to their sport class. So I have a roster that's for the basketball class and my strength and conditioning class, same exact roster. So we haven't had that issue. I haven't had to drop anybody. You know what I mean? So but I think it's because we have that situation that I can. That now it becomes a little more hairy for those kids to decide they don't want to do their stuff. We've never had a kid, play the sport, finish the season that wasn't on board with me.
Right.
Any of those sports. So we haven't set precedent like that yet. I'm not saying it's not going to happen because, like I said, it sure seems like it's changing nowadays.
Sure.
Just our ability to condition kids and the heat, and I don't know. It freaks me out a little bit.
No doubt.
That's the kind of the direction we're going right now. Where we're just, I think with us, there's a lot of liability worries,
right.
Like, oh, we don't want to, it's too hot, we don't run, football players, we don't run in pads anymore, we don't run with the helmet on. It's foreign to me, it's the first year, really, you know, a kid goes down and takes a knee or lays on his back after running 100, he's done for the day. I'm like, wow, just don't let the kids know that.
I know.
You know?
That's a little bit different than the old Cal days, right?
Oh, man. Come on. You can, you know, it was definitely a different time.
No doubt. No doubt. You know, two things you said there that I think are driving, you know, key points. One is that you get buy-in from the athletes and point out success and their goals. You know, I always talk about, you know, as a strength coach, I'm holding them accountable to their goals, not my goals, but their goals, you know, and most of those kids will say that they want to go on to 4-year colleges or go to the pros or whatever it is. And having worked with two athletes that you've worked with, you know, with Jason Pierre-Paul and Domital Pecco, you know, they think the world of you. And those are two guys that, you know, they'll tell you flat out that you cared about them more as people than you did as players, you know, and you pointed those types of things out. And so I think setting those goals and showing them success, I think that's important. Yeah. And then you also mentioned, you know, buy-in from the coaches and sitting down and talking about expectations before you go. I mean, so many times it's a 5-minute meeting. Hey, I need you to train the team at this time, this time, and this time, and that's it. You got to have those hard conversations. You got to say, okay, now what if the kid misses? How we hold
the kid misses? What if the kid's, you know, messing around? Like we have to be on the same page. Otherwise, we're gonna have some issues. You know,
some sort of accountability structure. You got to have that. Yeah. You know, and that's, you know, and you don't want to be the rule guy and have 9,000 rules, but you want to set an expectation, and most coaches will appreciate that. You know,
definitely. Yeah, you need that.
You mentioned the CSCCA earlier. You know, we're both members, we're both master strength coaches. You know, I always this has been my fight. This has been my challenge. You know, is I look at, you know, the generation of strength coaches that started a lot of the things that we're benefiting from now. You know, started the CSCCA, started the NSCA, really created the profession. And I look at that and say, man, they started this profession out from scratch. You know, they created these positions. We got people making $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 as strength coaches now. 40, 50 years ago, it didn't exist.
Right.
You know, but right now we have a ton of people that are throwing their hands up in the air saying, oh, there's no jobs and I'm pissed off and I'm qualified and this, that, and the other. Well, you know, where's the entrepreneurial type of spirit to go and create jobs and to go and create better opportunities for the profession and continue it to grow, as opposed to just being this throw my hands up in the air, I hit a wall, you know, deal. What's your opinion? What needs to be fixed right now, you know, with college strength and conditioning or strength and conditioning in general, the profession in general?
I mean, I see it. You know, I see it's tough for those young kids coming out, even to get a GA job now, man. It's, you know, I had one of my ex-kids that just finished up at Norfolk State, and he actually got on at San Jose State. But he was actually heading there to move up there to go pay for his own school for the possibility of something opening up for the spring semester.
Right.
So, but at the last second, you know, a kid, you know, turned down a position, so he got it. But I watched that poor kid interview with about 20 different coaches at CSCCA, you know, at the national, just, you know, sitting there with the shirt and tie on doing his thing. And I'm like, man, to get that GA job, it was rough. So I understand that, man. It's tough, and you know, we got guys that used to be full-time assistants going back and taking those GA jobs away from those kids coming out.
Right.
You know, it's tough because, like you said, it's so different. You know what we're doing in the college setting, and then going out, it's pretty foreign. It's a scary thing to even go out into the private sector, like a Velocity or something, and now go and do your sales pitch to this high school to get that team to come in. Where would you get those skills? You know, like you were saying. Right. So I feel for it, but at the same time, you know, we've been through it all, and we've had, you know, like I've taught every level of PE. You know, I would have loved to have been coaching, you know, to 4-year level or something at that point. But you know what, you figure out what you're going to do as it comes. Sometimes.
Sure.
I don't know if there's an answer. I know there's going to be a lack of jobs because there's a lot of kids graduating every year and getting their CSCCA, and just seeing all those kids come through and take that test, you start thinking, where are you going to work? You know, there's older guys that they're trying to find work. So it's tough. So other than going to like a private, you know, Velocity type deal or something, or starting your own I wouldn't even like that. Scares the heck out of me thinking about like trying to start your own little, training,
Sure.
studio or something. Man, that I have no business sense about me to do something like that. So that would be like you were saying, I'm taking a course trying to figure that one out,
Right.
before you try to, what are you going to do with all that knowledge? How are you going to get it out? How am I going to, what's the members, what are they paying and all that kind of stuff. So,
Right.
I don't know if there's a answer. All I know is that nothing gets accomplished without hard work.
That's right.
We were just talking about buying in with the athletes, and that's the thing now. Kids are like, I want to get paid. I got to eat. And I'm like, what'd you do? Like, did you invest anything in there? Did you put anything in the bank? Did you what did you do to prepare yourself for that? And it's that whole thing. It's cliche, but nothing's born without that hard work. And man, I want these youngsters. They don't need to get that microwave right now thing.
Right.
None of us did that. So to have that entitlement, and sometimes you see that. I've talked to kids come in, and intern, or like I got a kid that's not even at the 4 year. He's kind of just shadowing us right now at the college. Talking about how he wants to, open his own facility and how he would do it differently than this guy. And blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you don't even have a BA degree, Get out there and get some dirt on those hands for a bit.
That's right.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I don't know if it's just something that because we got the internet and that kind of thing, and we see people kind of become stars by becoming stars, and what does that even mean?
Right.
I don't even know what those guys, they make money or anything like that, but sometimes we get this thing that this notoriety or internet fame somehow is like the same thing as, being a real deal guy or something.
Absolutely.
I'm a real world guy. I don't, you can come and see what I do. It's not BS.
And that's the thing. I mean, when you do things, and I know you're just like me. If you got a video or a product, you got your membership site, you got a couple of videos. People think you get rich off those things. I mean, that's you're not paying the bills with that.
There's a reason I still got to get up every day and go to work.
No doubt. Those things are. It's not nearly what everybody makes it out to be. Especially the guys that are doing the most talking on the internet. That's not the case. But in the profession, I think what I was alluding to is the fact that we as coaches, us as guys that have been in the business for a while, as well as these young coaches that are coming through, we need to identify the possibilities here. And I always go back to and again I use you as an example so much with the coaches that I work with. Because, you went and you created your dream job. You created the spot for you, and there's so many colleges out there still, NAIA, NCAA Division II, Division III, that still don't even have a strength coach,
Right.
And if you just walked in there and said, hey, look, I'll be the rec center coordinator, I'll teach a couple of classes, give me a coaching stipend, I'll go work at freaking Walmart distribution center on the weekends, and you do that for a year or two, you know what? People start to like you, and they start to try to find a way to help you. And if you're not willing to make that sacrifice of going to the volunteer internship in North Dakota, and then the GA in North Carolina, and then maybe whatever. If you're not willing, and you want to kind of centralize on a place, then that's what you need to do. You need to find a small college, a high school, something like that, and then try to grow a position. I think. I tell coaches, I tell our interns all the time that, to me, a high school coaching job right now would be the ideal way to get into strength and conditioning. I think you go, you coach, you teach. You got a good $40,000 job to kind of fall back on. It's better than any GA right now or part-time assistant. And now you got a whole summer to go visit and do site visit with coaches and get to know coaches. As well as a laboratory to implement the things that you learn.
Yeah,
but I think we got to, we got to kind of get up off our ass as coaches, and we need to start creating those spots, and and that's what I try to do, and I know that's you try to do the same, and we try to give back to the profession. That's why we do the things we do. But I'd like to see more of our coaches doing those things, and when we have those meetings at the CSCCA and the NSCA and things along those lines. that we're trying to address those issues. You know,
Absolutely.
And I know we talk about that all the time, but this is an opportunity for us to kind of to broadcast it a little bit.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. Yeah, that's a great point because, you know, when I was doing what I did at the high school, you know, I got to learn a lot by figuring things out, you know, running all the different levels of teams and then helping the basketball and the baseball kids on the side. And, you know, I think it comes down to experience too, you know. That's why I tell all these interns and stuff that come in, nothing's gonna replace that. Sure, you can be in a bad situation with somebody who's not a great mentor.
Sure.
But you gotta, at some point, you gotta get in that weight room. You gotta put hands on people, and you gotta, you know, correct, and you have to cue, and you have to that's what we do. It's you know, it's almost like somebody was complaining about the CSCS. Hey, you know, anybody can study the essentials text and pass that exam, and there's no hands on it. It's true. I mean, really, you can come out and not know the first thing about
right.
spotting somebody or teaching somebody how to squat or teaching somebody how to bench press. I mean, at least the CSCCA, we're trying to do that,
right?
You know, the correct and trying to make them demonstrate that they know how to create a program and stuff like that. But even then, you know, it's kind of hit and miss of where these kids are learning their stuff from.
Sure.
But that's a great point, though. I mean, if you want to be able to do what you want to do, the high school level is probably the best spot to go. And I don't know about how it is around here. It's some of the schools, mostly the private schools, you know, the kind of the big time football private schools. They have some of the most unbelievable weight rooms, and they have full time strength coaches, and you know. And here we are in the state of California. There's 3 of us in junior college, and there's more junior colleges that play football in California than the rest of the United States combined.
Right.
You know, and there's 3. So, but there's a lot. There's more than 3 high school strength coaches, you know, within a 20-mile radius of here.
Right.
So, that would really be, yeah, that's a great point that you made. Just get out there and do it, or go to a small school. Sure. Small 4-year, you know, a Division 3, Division check. Are you kidding me? Like, we have kids that go off, get scholarships to Division 2 schools, and they're emailing me, hey, Coach, can you send me some workouts? We don't have anybody that does our stuff, you know. And they end up kind of teaching the rest of their team,
sure.
You know, stuff.
Sure.
So, yeah, that's a good point, man. That's a great point.
Yeah, I know you got to get going. I want to get you off to your weekend here, but you know, I know you're also a lifelong learner. You know, and so I kind of always end these shows with some resources. Give me a book that you recommend coaches read. So it doesn't have to be strength; it could be business or leadership or whatever. Something that you would recommend all your coaches read.
You know, I brought up at the beginning. I think what Mark Verstegen did. You know, he built something with the core. You know, the whole series of core books, but core performance in general, I think, was the first one that kind of set things out. If you're a young strength coach and you haven't just gone through that and kind of looked at the rationale by how Mark came up with a lot of the stuff they came up with, based on his background, you know, as being a Division I strength coach, you're missing out. You need to go look at that. And some of the stuff he's already changed. You know, that's how it works. You know,
right.
For me, talking to people like Gray. Lee Burton, you know, people, the whole correctives and the whole assessment to me was something that's still for me very, very young.
Right.
So for us, we're trying to figure out ways to how do we implement FMS with our groups and things like that and get everybody on the same page. So a great book is called Corrective Exercise Solutions by Evan Osar, and it's basically talks a lot about hip and shoulder dysfunction. I'm fascinated when I start to read these types of things. It's like sitting down and talking with Gray. You just start realizing that these are really smart dudes, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of times I find myself when I'm having beers with these guys and they're talking, I'm just nodding.
I have no idea what you're
talking about right now. But it's great when you talk to other guys and they say the same thing. You're like, okay, I'm not as stupid as I think. But for me, that's the direction I'm going. And also kind of one of the things I'd like to get into eventually down the line is I'm a big microbrew guy. So business-wise is looking at how to get involved with that, like upstart microbrewing. So I believe, I don't have it in front of me, but I believe it was like the Great American Microbrew book. And it basically follows a bunch of these little upstart companies and kind of, you know, and I think the thing that comes to mind is like reading even about Starbucks is just building culture.
Right.
And then creating that and creating the business based around that, creating a great product. First of all, you can't sugarcoat something that's terrible. Create a great product, build a culture by people that work, that love doing what they do around there, and then build the business from there. Versus a lot of people look the other way. Hey, how much money do I want to try to make right now? Okay, what product are you selling? Well, I don't know yet. So just from that perspective, like I said, I'm just such a newbie when it comes to business in general that I'd like to at some point. I got maybe about 10 more years doing what I do. Working with the athletes, and then at that point, I'd like to get out and maybe look more towards the business side and stuff. And it probably is going to be unrelated. It's probably going to be something with beer.
I hear you, brother. Give me so CoachDose.com is one of my resources, one of my sites that I go visit for as a resource. But what are some of maybe a site that you go visit that you like to go back to, and then also maybe an app that you use with your athletes or just in general?
StrengthCoach.com is cool because of all the people that visit there.
Right.
So it's like at any given time you can get on there, get on a thread, and there'll be, 5 or 6 really, really solid coaches kind of chiming in on stuff.
Right.
So I think that's the best part about that site is essentially I don't think there's a better forum that you're going to get in terms of you could throw something out there and you'll get great feedback right away, or you'll get to chime in on some other stuff. As far as an app, the only thing that I really use in terms of the apps is just more or less timer stuff for a lot of our CST protocols or our cardio strengthening protocols. I use one called Tabata Pro.
Yep.
For us, it's the easiest, simplest. We can use it with all of our player lists, our Pandora and stuff like that in the weight room. Trying to think, because I'll think of a zillion things when I get off with you here. I think Core Performance is a great site in terms of just what they put out. I love Josh Henkin's blog. Josh, you had a session with Josh, and he's a bright guy. With a good solid background. You want to talk about a guy that's come from all different things. His RKC, CrossFit cert. The guy's done everything. So to me, those are the guys I want to talk to, not the guys that are just like, I'm a CrossFit guy and everything else sucks. I mean, he's a guy that he can make an actual educated statement about all these things,
Yeah.
And I think he's packaged a really good education behind that. Because without the education, I'm talking to Chris Frankel at TRX, the same thing. Without the education, it's just a yellow and black straps that hang off of a squat rack. Without Josh's education system, it's just a bag of sand, And I think that's why he gets frustrated, and that's why I can see that. Where people go, I can make my own bag of sand, It's not about the bag of sand. It's kind of like, how did we come up to the rationale to come up with these progressions of things that he does with his bear hug squats and his rotational lunges and stuff like that. So to me, I'm always trying to learn new things, and that's definitely one of my resources is him. And I've got the great thing about the luxury that I have is I can shoot a text to you or any of these guys and be like, hey, what do you do? What do you think of this? To get a kind of a feel. So, but that just comes with, I think, going back to these young guys and girls, what do you do? Meet people, create relationships with people. So you have somebody to go to, somebody to ask questions of, and bounce stuff off, Nothing bugs me more than, the 24-year-old kid that comes and asks me a question, and then when I start answering the question, he's not letting me finish, and he wants to ask me the next question, because he's already gotten in his head that he didn't really like what I said, so he's going to ask, it blows my mind, 'cause I've always been that guy. It's like, I want to see, even if I go to listen to something didn't think I agreed with, right? I'm like, listen to him, and I'm like, this is BS or whatever. Like, give something a chance. Like, listen to everything that has to be said,
right?
So you can make an educated statement versus, this guy just does this. I don't like TRX. I don't like kettlebells.
No doubt.
Like, so it's one of those things where that's part of that lifelong learner thing. Trying to get better every day.
Yeah, you gain, and that's it. You gain ammunition to support your positioning.
Absolutely.
I'm going to hear all that. Okay, well, here's my counters, but I'm going to, I'm going to save that for when I need it.
Exactly.
That drives me insane too. I agree with you 100%. All right, man. Hey, I appreciate you coming on. Leave me with a quote that you live by, or maybe that's plastered up in your weight room.
Oh man, it's not where you start; it's where you finish.
That's right.
I think with my population, that's it can be better, man. We got 8 NFL guys, and none of them were recruited out of high school. I think it's a great deal to see that get throwaways essentially. A lot of these
Right.
kids are throwaways, and now they're really successful. And it's not just that; it's just all the kids that we have that weren't great students, and now they're graduated, and a lot of them went to grad school. It's just one of those things where, um, man, that's probably that's one of those lifelong things.
That's
You got to
awesome.
work, got to work.
Well, that's
You
the
know?
most rewarding part about what we do is seeing those guys go on and
Oh, absolutely.
gals and have success in anything. And that's
Oh yeah, man, I love it when I see you post a picture. They're on the field, and one of the kids on the other team, play
yeah,
for you.
that's the best
That's
feeling in the
awesome, man. It
world.
gets goosebumps thinking about that kind of stuff.
You're the best, man. You're an inspiration for me, and you're a constant resource. And I truly appreciate you taking the time, brother.
Absolutely, man. Anytime.
All right, guys. Before we let you go, a couple quick things. Make sure you go ahead and join me in our comments section at ronmckeefery.com, where we have the show notes for this episode as well as any of the links that we mentioned there for you to be able to access. But more importantly, please get in there. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts on the episode. Let me know your thoughts on the concepts that Dose shared with us, as well as just letting him know how much we appreciate him coming on the show and giving us some time. While you're there, go ahead and sign up for the mailing list. You get a free ebook, for doing so. But I give you updates each week on the episodes that we've shot that week, as well as any of the Tribe TV videos there. If you're watching on YouTube, if you would subscribe, that helps me out with YouTube. It helps me help other coaches and spread Iron Game Chalk Talk message. And if you like Iron Game Chalk Talk, then I'm sure you're going to like Strength on Demand, Strength Dash On Demand. Strength on Demand is a product that Rob Taylor and myself put together. It's 52 clinic presentations that are just from various strength and conditioning clinics around the country. Yeah, and it's just learning opportunities. And we really put this product together because we love to learn, constantly trying to get as much knowledge as we can from others that are in the field and in the trenches. And it's just, videos by strength coaches, for strength coaches. And so I think you would really enjoy that. Check that out, Strength Dash On Demand, and we'll come back next week with another great episode. Thanks a lot.